Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Jesse Ewell, and today we're going to be talking about the habit of ownership. Do you own your shit? This is just another way of saying ownership. However, today I'm going to tell a story, and I'm going to talk about a story that I have spent several hours over the last week working on and being super frustrated about. See, 9 days ago, roughly, I bought my wife a brand new 2019 Cadillac Escalade. And after getting it, I had this idea that I wanted to black out all the chrome on the entire car. If you've ever seen them, there's quite a few chrome pieces. But I wanted to get all this blacked out, so I paid a local company to do what's called a chrome delete package. Now, this car that I had dropped off at a place that I will not say until, this job is completely fixed, which we'll get into. But I went to pick it up on Saturday when it was finished, and I noticed right away several pieces. They didn't seem right and they didn't look professional. And I immediately went back into the shop and said that I wanted the areas fixed. And one of the workers came out and I kind of showed him some areas of concern and just said, hey, these seem to be like, they don't seem to look that great. And so he agreed and he went inside and he fixed them. But as he came out, it began to get darker. This time it was around 6:30, 7 o'clock. It happened to kind of be in the back of a warehouse space. And so it was getting dark. It was hard to see the areas that had been done. Now, as I got home, I'm like, hey, thinking like this looks pretty black. It's kind of hard to see. I showed my wife and she's like, yeah, you definitely got rid of all the chrome. But the next morning as I woke up, I kind of went out and started looking at the car, and I noticed several other areas that had cosmetic damage, from just almost looking like someone took black duct tape and taped over the chrome, to seeing a lot of the rubber seals around the windows, seeming like somebody jammed them under there, up under there, and some of them were and some of them weren't, so it almost made it look worse. But as I was looking through this, I immediately got triggered and kind of started going through the entire car, finding all kinds of issues. Now, this definitely did not look like somebody who knew what they were doing. And it may have looked like it was someone who did this for their first time. But as my wife, Katie, starts looking at the car and seeing all the issues, this, of course, intensified everything and made it even worse. And I decided that I was going to email the salesperson and just say, hey, listen, throughout this email, I was like, I'm not sure who did this job, but it looks like a first grader taped the chrome on the car with duct tape. Mind you, this is a brand new car that literally had 22 miles on it. When I purchased it, I dropped it off and it had 300 miles. So all day Sunday, as I'm waiting for a response back, I get an email back later that evening. But throughout all day Sunday, I was frustrated, I was upset, I was pissed off. I received an email back stating that, hey, whatever problems there are, we'll take care of them and we'll fix them. Well, that night, I talked to my wife and she's like, listen, I don't even want it on there anymore. I just want it taken off. And so I thought about, okay, let's just do this. Let's just take off all the chrome delete. Let's just put it back to normal. Because here's what I was thinking. If someone allowed this car to leave their place and look the way it did, they have a quality control issue. They have an issue with, this, because there was obvious issues with it. I don't even do this for a living, and I could point out several. So And my wife could too, and she was getting very upset. So I decided to email again and basically say, listen, I want all the chrome taken off. And not only that, but I want a full refund. The fact that you let this car out of your shop tells me that you don't pay attention to details, and also tells me that I do not want to do business with you. I will go somewhere else where they have better quality control. All I want is my car back to normal, and I'll go on my way. So I received a phone call the next morning from a gentleman, and he explained to me, hey, we will take care of your car, we'll fix any of it, and we guarantee all of our work. And I said, well, that's great, except there's one big problem. I no longer want you working on my car. I no longer want you and your company touching my car outside of just taking off all of the chrome delete. And he went on to explain to me, hey, okay, we can take it all off, but we don't do refunds. And I said, basically, I want it returned to normal. I don't really care what your policy is, what you're going to threaten me with. I don't give a shit. I just want my car back to normal. Now, as this goes on, Monday afternoon, I get a picture from my wife who peels off some chrome delete and all of a sudden finds a huge 6 to 8 inch scratch on top of the vehicle. And they'd happened to cut a piece of the chrome delete to try to cover up the scratch to make it look like they didn't do it. And I took some pictures. As I'd taken several pictures throughout the whole entire process, I called, sent the pictures to the manager, and they said they would bring it up to the shop or bring it to the shop's attention in the morning. And I basically said, again, we have a major problem. We have a major issue. No one is taking ownership of what's happened to this car. Nobody knows who did the work or who didn't do the work. And I want my car taken care of. So I brought my car in that morning to the shop, and immediately the salesperson said, hey, I can see a few spots, but not as many as you stated on the phone. You stated that your entire car, the entire chrome package was trash, which it was. And so he wanted to proceed and tell me everything that they had done right, how it all looked normal. But all of the rubber seals around all of the windows, all of the doors, the grill on top of the car was all damaged. And he wanted to continue to be right. He wanted to continue to state his case, why he was right. And then I showed him the scratch on the roof. And he said his number one thing was, we don't use sharp tools. That wasn't us. And I said, so you're telling me you're not going to take responsibility, you're not going to take ownership for this. Is this correct? And he said, sir, I can't tell you that we did that because we don't use sharp tools. I said, I need to talk to someone who's actually going to help me, someone who's actually going to take ownership for me. And at that point, I was very pissed off. I was very upset. And he said, well, we need to talk to my technicians. And I said, well, here's a small piece of tape that they tried to cover up the scratch with. Did you want to take that back to them too and ask them who did this? And here's the reality. I wanted to lose my shit on this guy, and I was about ready to. And the reason why is this guy wanted to be right. He wanted to tell me all the reasons why he was right instead of owning his shit, instead of taking responsibility for the work or the lack of the work, to take ownership for his company and what it did to my car. Now, a little bit later, as they started to work through this, I had left for about an hour. I came back. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And the manager came up to me and she said, hey, I'm very sorry about your car. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to issue you a full refund for everything. And along with that, we're going to pay for everything, every part of your car that was damaged. And, as I sat there for a minute, I thought, man, like this lady is actually seeing what I'm seeing. She's actually getting what I'm getting. And mind you, I had to take my car to the Cadillac dealership about an hour later, and there was over almost $6,000 in damage done to the car. All of the chrome has to be replaced. So in one way, this lady was owning her shit. In another way, this guy, this gentleman, this sales guy did not own his shit. And when he didn't own his shit, my temperature, my core continued to rise. I continued to feel this rage inside of me because this guy was so committed to being right that all I wanted to do was have him own his shit and take ownership of what happened. Now, this other thing happened. As I'm waiting at the Cadillac dealership, I end up taking a call where this gentleman happens to be in a bad place. He's looking for some coaching. He's having some issues with his wife. He's kind of stuck between 3 jobs and not paying his bills, but he wants to blame his wife. He wants to blame others for his lack of production. He wants to play the victim. He wants to tell me that he's literally tried everything to make money. And this brought me back to, wow, man, I'm dealing with these people in my life who are not clear about, number one, what they want. And so if they're not clear about what they want, they get more of what they don't want. And so here's what I told him. I listed off 4 things to do because he said, literally, I've tried everything. I said, well, have you tried this, this, and this? And I gave him a couple options in 2 different businesses. And I said, what the hell are you? He said, no, I had not ever tried those. I didn't even consider them. And I said, well, what are you waiting for? He said he doesn't know. He's stuck. And I said, of course you're stuck. You're too busy trying to be right instead of actually taking ownership for where you are. And here is the key point in that is if you can't take ownership, one of the most common momentum killers that I've seen in coaching of thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners, is the lack of ownership for results, the lack of owning your shit and your current results, not just in business, but all areas of life. This is the number one killer of results. Lots of people think that they actually tell the truth, but they're still lying to themselves. And not only that, they're still lying to other people. And when you lie to yourself, everything that comes out of your mouth is a lie to everybody else because you're not taking ownership. If you're looking, for a shift in taking ownership, start with stopping lying. Because guess what? It would have been painful for this guy to just be like, man, it's me. It's not my wife. It's me who's at home waiting for someone to call, bouncing back and forth in my mind between 3 businesses. It's me staying stuck. Just like this guy at the Cadillac dealership not wanting to say, hey, sir, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we screwed up, but I promise you we'll make this right and we'll fix it. And that's what taking ownership is about. And that's what stop lying is about. And then no matter how painful it is to take ownership about where you are, whether it's good or bad. But in that place, you can own your shit and you can start by taking ownership. This is where the true power is in this. And this is where the power is when you stop lying and stop trying to make excuses for where you are or how you've shown up. This is where you can begin to turn it around. And this is where your power comes from. Because the alternative is to continue to be a victim to life and not have ownership for yourself and for how you actually show up. So here's the question for you today. Where in your life do you need to start where in your life do you need to start owning your shit, taking ownership And what's one way you can begin doing this? And where it usually starts is, where am I lying in my life right now? Where am I lying in my life today? And if I can focus on that and find that, I can begin to dig the root out, and I can start owning it and taking ownership. I want to thank you guys for being on here today. Needless to say, the car saga continues, and I will keep this updated throughout the podcast, but we're in stage 1 of communicating with the insurance company and getting this fixed. But if you guys are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook, where I will be dropping daily habits to help you live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies and begin living this habit-based lifestyle, feel free to reach out to me. Questions, comments, or concerns, Jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.